Hi, it's me again, Bob. Thank you for coming back to our study, the two witnesses, Enoch and Elijah, not Moses, but Enoch and Elijah. Uh, Point three is a very simple, but in my opinion, interesting point. I call it remain. Uh, Now, most Christians are familiar with when Jesus raised Lazarus from the grave. And Jesus yelled out, Lazarus, come forth. And most Christians know or have heard the story that had Jesus not mentioned the name Lazarus and just said, come forth, then probably every dead person who was ever buried in a tomb or whatever would have also come forth. But he had to narrow it down to just Lazarus, and he mentioned Lazarus by his name. So point three, in my opinion, is a similar situation, and it has to do with the verse that says, for the Lord himself shall descend from heaven with a shout, with the voice of the archangel, and with the trump of God, and the dead in Christ shall rise first. And then it says, then we which are alive and remain shall be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air, and so shall we ever be with the Lord. Now think about it. If everyone who was dead in Christ was resurrected because of what Jesus said, that the dead in Christ shall rise first, then who does that leave? Well, it leaves those who are alive in Christ. But if everyone who was alive in Christ would have been taken up, then that would have left an interesting point. Because there are two people who are still alive that God did not want them to take place in the rapture. I think you could figure out who those two people are. They're Enoch and Elijah. They're both alive. And had Jesus not mentioned it specifically, what I'm about to say, then they too would have participated in the rapture, and they would not have been able to have been the two witnesses. But there's a little word in that verse that sort of takes care of this whole situation, and it's the word remain, because it says, those who are alive and remain shall be caught up. Now, guess who doesn't remain? Who's alive and doesn't remain? It's Enoch and Elijah. They do not remain. So therefore, they are not going to participate in this rapture. If you will, they're sort of canceled out, and they will not participate because of that word remain. It leaves them out, and therefore, since they do not remain, they will not be raptured, and therefore they can participate as the two witnesses. So it's interesting. I don't make any apology for saying this, but the King James Version got it right, because some of the other versions don't have that word, but the King James Version has the word remain, and it's critical to understand that without that word, that Enoch and Elijah would have participated in the rapture, alleviating them from becoming eligible to be the two witnesses. But because they do not remain, but they are alive, but because they do not remain, they can be the two witnesses and fulfill that verse. Okay.